Okay, welcome to another episode of Off the Bench with RGT, Parth and Deep. It's your second episode here. How are you guys feeling?
Parth, you want to take that?
Parth, you can go
So
first.
polite. Both of us are so polite. Okay, I'll take it. Amazing. I think you're doing an excellent job. Keep doing this. And super happy to be here as many times as you want.
Yeah, and shout out to all the 64 people that have been watching our videos. But good job, man. Just the consistency is crazy. And keep up the good work, man. And I hope you win some podcast award sooner than later.
Thanks, man. Thanks for that, guys. So today we will be discussing Manchester United's off-field business. So nothing on the field so far, but the new ownership, the new sporting structure, and a lot more. So let's dive right in. So the first question to you guys is, firstly, what is your honest take on the new owners? I mean, there was so much to and fro with supposedly investment coming in from the Emirates, but it was eventually Jim Ratcliffe who won it, right? And we gave it to him. So, Deep, if I ask you first, what are your thoughts on Ineos and the new ownership?
I think initially, I don't know, very subconsciously, all of us were rooting for Sheikh Jassim because he had more money. So we thought, there'll be a lot more changes that would take place. But then seeing Newcastle and seeing City now, it seemed very shady. So, at the end, I'm glad that Ineos took over. And also, I'd seen an interview of Sir David Brailsford way back, I think a couple of years ago, and I really like what he said because he was handling the British cycling team for the Olympics. And they were really shit at one point. And then after that, he did mention how Ineos and them took over, and slowly and steadily they sort of made it up. So, overall, I think Ineos is doing a great job till now, at least what they're saying. So, the optics are good, and it's too soon to say whether or not they're going to build, is Carrington going to be like a new world-class sort of facility for 50 mil? And what they're going to do with the stadium, because we're still in two minds whether or not to refurbish Old Trafford or to make a completely separate stadium. So, but the first couple of steps are very encouraging, I should say that.
Perfect. Okay, thanks for that, Deep. That was pretty insightful. Parth, what are your thoughts on Ineos and the new ownership?
What I believe is, see, the fundamental thing is what is the objective of the owner, right? When Sheikh Jassim, if you think about it, the objectives were not United, right? Like it was personal. Similarly for Glazer, it was about profit. But Sir Jim Ratcliffe is a fan. Like his objective is get United back to the top. So I believe just that fact, that overarching objective of the owners is now to get the club back on top. So we'll be moving towards that. We won't be moving towards profits but yeah, so the objective is now to get United on the top. And they're doing all the right things till now, but it's too early to say, right? Because if just putting in the right structure was the trick, I'm sure others would have done it. Chelsea would have done it, right? So again, I would reserve judgment, but it looks good, looks promising.
Fair enough, Parth. I mean, that kind of leads me on to the next question, right? You spoke about structure. So I think that's one thing they've done superbly since they've come in, right? They've got the footballing hierarchy in place. They've got the best in the business, at least in England, when it comes to the footballing structure. So Parth, what are your thoughts on the structure that we build, and most particularly just Omar Barada coming in as CEO and Dan Ashworth coming as sporting director? What are your views on the two of them?
Okay, so now the structure actually looks like a structure, right? Before this, we didn't have a structure. It was random people making random decisions. No one knew who is. Still don't understand who was reciting targets. Okay, like was it Woodward, was it Glazers, was it the manager? It was super confusing. But now it's very clear. At least there's a structure in place. There's a person responsible to take these decisions. And I think Omar Barada is a great person to bring in right now because he was heading the football operations for the whole of City Group. Like he knows, and he's done it for 10 years, he knows how to run a football club, right? He was not coming from a different profession. From the beginning, he's been in football. So I think that is also super important. And I think he'll do a great job. Like, even though we might not get back to the top, we're at least on the right path now.
Right. Fair enough. And what about Dan Ashworth?
So Dan Ashworth, have you read the recent quotes by Ten Hag? He said he's taken an office right next to mine and he helps me daily and helps a lot, right? I think Ten Hag also needed that. We've moved away from the times when Sir Alex Ferguson would do everything. Like now there is so much data, analytics, so many decisions to be made. It needs to be divided properly and done analytically. So I think this is, again, great appointment. I think that he was the number one choice. And I'm really surprised we managed to get him also, honestly.
And I mean, rumor has it that we just paid about 3 million for him, right? After all the 20 million quotations that we read.
But that is not important, honestly. 310, like on the longer term, there's nothing, right, for a club like United. So I would have said pay to that 20 and get him. Don't sign a Dan James or whoever else we pay 20 for.
Fair enough, fair enough. Okay, so that was Dan Ashworth and Omar Berrada. Deep, what are your thoughts on the other two people that we've got, Jason Wilcox and Christopher Vivell?
I think before, I mean, I just want to give an overall picture that the recruitment has been bloody brilliant, because they've got the best minds from the City group, and now with Christopher Vivell they've got the Red Bull model as well. So they're taking the best of like all the worlds possible, and the Red Bull group actually, because of Vivell, they signed some stunning players with Sesko and Haaland, and he's been there in Leipzig as well and also Salzburg. So he's got a good grip on European talent for sure. And similarly, Jason Wilcox is known to have a very firm grip on young English talent. When he started off, in City, I think he was a Blackburn player as well, and then he moved on to Man City as a coach, then went to their under-18s, and so he's very well versed with the football pyramid in England, which is supremely important if we're going to eventually be Manchester United. Back in the day we used to buy really exciting players from smaller, I mean the lower leagues. With Dan James, that really wasn't the best choice, not to single him out, but someone like Jason Wilcox would sort of help in that aspect as well. So again, it's a beautiful team that nice Avengers have assembled. So it just remains to be seen whether we'll be worth it.
Honestly, my worry is we'll go for English talent. I don't think England have produced like a world-class player since.
Here we go again. Here we go again.
I think, yeah,
So let's
that's
not
his Dutch bias over
shit
here.
team
but-
fluke their way to the finals. So I don't think we should.
Yeah. No, I don't. I mean, yeah.
No,
with
fair
Southgate,
point.
yes.
I hear you. I hear you, Parth. That's why, honestly, my big worry when we got Jason Wilcox in was I was reading rumors of Tosin coming in from Fulham to United, right? Because he was available on a free, and supposedly Jason Wilcox trained him at the City Academy. But again, that's not the standard United want, right? I mean, we've gone out and got Lenny Yoro, not a Fulham reject in a way, right?
Ideally, we should stay far away from English players in general.
I mean,
except
you
Mino,
have Kobe,
except Mino, but yeah.
except Mino, exactly,
But I
yeah,
think,
Kobe Mino.
There's just a entire pool of talent right now. I mean, in the club in terms of the recruiting heads. So they're going to be able to refute each other's. There'll be a say, there'll be a veto around, which is what is needed. Earlier, some bugger used to just randomly come say, let's buy him, and that's our strategy from now on, and they just picked up this random player. Now, there will be a lot more discussion by more able people and more well-functioning heads, I feel.
Yeah, there's a process now in place, right? Earlier,
A proper structure, yeah.
I think that moves on to the next point of discussion, right? I think when we talk about structure and proper planning when it comes to recruitment, we have seen that a little bit this summer, honestly. Previous summers, I feel like we've been very indecisive. For example, we've chased players for months, not got them eventually, and then had to panic and buy someone else. So, I mean, coming to you, Parth, first, what have you noticed differently in the 1.5 months of the transfer window this summer so far?
honestly, we have. So if you think about it, we are the only big club who've signed some big players. There have hardly been any movements, right? Because the Euros just ended, and that is extremely rare. Normally, we panic buy people right at the end, or we decide one transfer target at the start of the window, spend the whole window chasing them, and then overpay for them. This time is very different. Like these names that we hear been wrapped up in like 4-5 days, right? And I'm assuming that there was a process behind this, and they were scouted for like a good 3-4 months, and there were discussions ongoing. So there would have been a process rather than starting the process at the start of the window. Like there was pre-work done, even though I don't know how they did it because they were not allowed to, but because they were their old jobs. But it feels like there is some pre-work, there's a process, there is understanding, and it's clear that we will not wait for you, right? Like Euro, we are going to move on to Branthwaite and who else was the other one? I've forgotten. Delete. So it is very clear, right? We have a week, you answer yes or no, or we go for a second target rather than waiting till the last day and paying 80-100 million for a random person.
And Parth, one thing I want to add there, I also feel like the timeline between finally deciding that we're going to go for this player versus the player actually coming into Carrington for a medical has been super swift this year, right? It's crazy. Like, I think once they were sure, I remember last week is when we got the bid accepted by Lille for Lenny Yoro, right? And I think we gave him a week's time. And what I read is that I think Dan Ashworth or someone else on Monday flew to Belgium, literally closed the deal, and he was signed and announced on Thursday. We've not heard that before, man.
No, but there are also these rumors, I don't know how true they are, that it was on Athletic actually, that there was a huge sort of tat between any decision getting made and being approved, because the Glazers sit in America and they want to look at everything, right? And they would take like weeks to respond. So I think that is also now gone. And that also
Which is great.
makes a huge difference.
Which is great, absolutely.
You know, also with the new ownership, I've realized that there are a lot lesser leaks. So the rate at which we were getting information previously, especially about, you know, your Frankie de Jongs, and, you know, I remember when Moyes had come in, there was this whole witch hunt over Fabregas, and ultimately he never came.
And Bale.
Yeah, oh my God, Bale as well. And so, you know, these leaks have also stopped, so then negotiations also happen better in my opinion, because then other clubs get to know, and then, you know, there's a bidding war and stuff happening, and we're like ninjas all of a sudden, very swiftly working things out. So I think that's, you know, gone in our favor very well.
Very valid point. Deep, follow-up question to you, right? Another thing which has, you know, I've read a lot about this summer is the Man United tax is kind of going to go away now. What are your thoughts on that?
I think in any negotiation, if you play a little weak, then the other person knows that they can strong arm you into any sort of price that they want, and that's what's changed over here is very beautifully was Jared Branthwaite's first bid and second bid happened, and after that Everton said that, you know, we price him at about 65 or 70 mil. United said, you know, screw you, we're walking out of this. So that way they've always got the sort of stronger arm in this picture. And so now they've basically said to the world that we're not going to pay United tax anymore. This is a basic tactic of, you know, going about it. They've said that we're not going to go to your whims and fancies, and we're not going to agree with you, because if we don't like your price, we're willing to walk out. And that has sort of helped United negotiate better. I feel people know that if they're in with proper intent, and if we're not willing to sort of come down, they'll move on.
Correct.
To be fair, we don't know this yet. Then we might just end up paying 60 million for him still. The window's open.
Yeah.
Doesn't look like it.
I think the news that's coming out seems like we're more, you know, very with laser sharp focus right now in terms of our transfers and who we want and at what price we are willing to cap it at.
Parth, just carrying on from what you just said, I remember a couple of summers back, Man City wanted Harry Maguire, right? When we were also going in for him. But when Leicester, I think, priced him at 75, 80 million, I think it was Omar Berrada actually that came out and said that, you know, we have a price for a player and we're not going to pay above that, right? So I think that's kind of the direction we are going towards, right? What are your thoughts on that?
So the exact same situation happened with Maguire, where we started with a bid of 40, 45, and ultimately by the end of the window we paid 80. So and City walked away, right, when Leicester were not budging. I think Everton is trying something similar here, but looks like they're not going to get the money, and they desperately need it. So.
And also I think it comes out of a lack of homework done, right? So I remember post Maguire we had no plan. We had no plan B. So earlier it would be, if I've got plan B, I'll move out from plan A and we'll sort of put a bid in for the next player. But we had no one next in line. So which is why, again, very bad planning, no process, no structure in place.
Absolutely, Deep. And you know that what you just said is what we kind of had in place with Lenny Yoro. It was for sure that we needed an answer by this week. If he said no, I think we'd go out and get delayed for 45, 50 million and it would be done, right? I mean, I remember 2 summers back, I think the story with Anthony drove till the second last day of the window and we paid 85, 90 million for that guy, right? Because we didn't have another right wing in the backup as a backup.
No, I think the decision was only made to buy him because we lost our first 2 games.
Correct. There was this whole very panic button sort of pressed. Yeah. Casemiro all of a sudden came in. We weren't willing to buy him and then all of a sudden we lost Brighton and Brentford, if I'm not wrong. And then ultimately we just bought him for 69 mil and then this guy for 100, Anthony.
If he had a 150 million kitty left, why couldn't he plan and do things properly the whole window with it? Why does it need to be spent in the last 2 days?
Exactly.
So basically they ran the whole enterprise like a Gujarati shop.
Okay, Deep, the next question to you. So Jim Ratcliffe, actually, when he came in, he said that, we want to become like Real Madrid. They are the epitome of how football clubs should be run. And it's not just signing young talent for them, right? It's the way they plan their stadium, the way they get players on free transfers, just everything about them. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think United could actually follow suit, or you have your doubts?
I think, as any United fan would say, we'd like to be hopeful about the future, and I like what is coming out of his mouth, like a few things at least. So I do feel like, he has that intent and he has that capability to execute this, because something as smart as talking to the local sort of government in Manchester to make a different stadium and to make facilities like Real Madrid. If you've been to the Bernabeu, you know that it's like this complete experience where there are bars, restaurants all around in Madrid, right? So the same thing, Ratcliffe is trying to sort of emulate that. And so the idea is in the right place. Again, execution wise, how easy it's going to be, I mean, only time will tell. But I do like the ambition, and it's very straightforward ambition. And with regard to buying players, we've seen that the proof is in the pudding right now, especially with Xerxes signing, who was, very close to going to AC Milan, and now Lenny Euros, and all of a sudden, he's just played his first match for us, albeit a friendly. But the intent is there, and that seems very promising. So we can reach Real Madrid, and in the last few years, the gap has severely widened. And so let's hope that it sort of reduces. So all signs are pointing towards the right direction.
Great. Okay, let's move on. So we've signed Lenny Euro, we've signed Joshua Xerxes. Parth, what are the other positions you think we desperately need to strengthen this summer, and who would your number one choice for that position be?
I think we desperately need a left back. I don't have any number one choice, honestly, but I think we need to buy someone there. And honestly, I would like it to be someone like unknown, right? Like we find someone
like Malaysia.
Ooh, Malaysia was not bad. Honestly, I used to like him. But I don't know where he is, like what he's doing. But I feel that we need another like left back, and maybe a smaller club left back who's doing well also works, right? I was hearing some rumors about Chilwell. I honestly would not mind him.
Yes, but he's been pretty injury prone last few
That's
years.
the
That's
thing.
the only thing.
I mean, that's
Only
been our
last year.
problem with left back anyway now, because Shaw seems like he's made of glass. Anytime he can sort of break. And Malaysia's scared last year. No one knows till date how he got the damn injury, right? So I hope we get someone who can play like 30 matches in a season. I think that's a minimum requirement this time.
Doesn't need to be anyone special. It can be someone who just does a good job, right?
Absolutely. And I think Ten Hag has been pretty vocal and said that Luke Shaw cannot play 60 games in a season. I think that's a known fact. And if Malaysia is still a couple of months away, we need a left back, man.
Honestly, I would play Anthony there. I would convert him to a left back.
Oh my.
Honestly, Parth, every time Anthony is asked to play there, he creates a face
Yeah. He's a complete diva, man.
I would convert him to a left back. He'll be a decent left back because he runs back. His defending is not bad. He can obviously not win headers, but other than that, I think he can do everything at left back.
Deep, what about you?
I'm responding to the rumors right now, but there was a time, I mean, we were quoted to be, sort of suiting Ivan Toney. Now, I know that we are very well stocked in the forward line, but I feel like he firstly brings something different to the game. And secondly, the time when we were triumphant, especially like, during Fergie's time, the latter years, we kind of did have 3 to 4 strikers, if you see. There was a Tevez, there was a Rooney, Ronaldo used to play there, but also the wings. We had Louis Saha. During 99, we had 4 strikers, Andy Cole, Dwight York, Terry Sheringham and Solskjaer. So, I know we're not playing a 4-4-2 anymore, it doesn't work like that, but I feel like if we've got that backup and we've got a sort of different type of player profile, that might help us. This is a shot in the dark like my Ukraine shout out, but I feel like Ivan Toney would be a nice addition. And the price he's at, and he's a Premier League proven striker. That might sort of change up the equations in the dressing room, but I think for the betterment of the team, doesn't seem like a bad shout out.
I think striker is not a very critical position for us right now. I think we have decent depth now with Zirkzee and Højlund. And Rashford can also fill in, and Sancho and Bruno can play false 10, right? False 9, sorry, when we require it. My another worry is we need a central midfielder. Honestly, even in preseason, Casemiro looks like shit again. So I don't know what has happened to him.
And we made him captain all of a sudden. I'm not understanding this for these remaining fixtures. And there's this Saudi interest that's there. I think he should be moved on. You know, we won 2 trophies with him, and you know he did pretty well in the first season. I should say this.
Yeah.
But all of his drop off, all of a sudden, God knows what's happened with him. Maybe someone's like burgled his house. I don't know, but
But he's overhitting passes. It doesn't make sense. Like that.
he just seems to lose the legs all of a sudden. His energy wears out, you know, when he's tracking back and things like that. So if you would ask me who my second preference in which position it would be right now of utmost importance, I'd say, you know, central midfield for sure.
So, question to two of you. Let's assume we get Manuel Ugarte or Zubimendi or someone, right? As the other defensive midfielder, would you keep Casemiro or would you get Amrabat back in?
I'd get Amrabat because I know we've not given him a fair chance, and he himself said it. For him to say that I've just played a whole like 90 minutes in like 3 months and now I'm starting. This is an interview from the latter half of the season. He kind of did have a nice step up, and the price he's at, the wages, and he can fill in as a left back. He can fill in a worst case as a defender as well. So he's a very sort of Swiss knife sort of player where he can fill in various positions, right? So I wouldn't mind giving him a chance, and I think Casemiro especially, I think he's the highest wage earner right now in the club. It just doesn't make sense for him to stay back.
Parth, what about you?
I think Ten Hag will want to evolve to his possession style based football. I think we're going to sign someone, honestly, who's comfortable in the ball and can pass it around to sit with Mine. I would keep Amrabat as a backup where we have to play defensive. Like when we on these big games where we need a double pivot, I would definitely.
Because if you guys remember the FA Cup final, Amrabat had a super game.
Exactly. The last 4 games of the season that we played, he had really good games because the system suited him. Right? We were playing 2 CDMs, sort of a double pivot in the center. That suits him. If you leave him alone, then he can't manage.
And also, I think it takes time for players to break into the league because of the pace. I mean, it's not a World Cup, and I know everyone was like, oh, he played brilliant for Morocco against France. But, it takes time. It's a different league. It's a different style. The pace is so phenomenally fast. So, which is why, he sort of built in and developed towards the end of the season.
I think... Yeah. Not just that. When he came in, right, and Casemiro got injured, we didn't have a left back either because Shaw got injured. So the guy played left back as an inverted full back for the first 2-3 months, which is so unfair. Parth, question to you, right? New ownership, new sporting structure, better recruitment, looks like it at least. How long do you realistically think we will be back to challenging for the title?
I still think it's 2 years away. I still think the squad needs a full refresh. Right now, we don't have anyone in midfield, if you think about it. And you can't just buy 4-5 people and put them in, right? Like Eriksen, Casemiro, this is our core right now, which needs to fully change. So I think it will take 1 season to do a 50% refresh right now, which we're already on the way of doing. And next season, we'll buy the people who will actually make us win the league. So I think this is a rebuilding process, which will go on for 2 years at least.
Got it. And Deep?
I feel like it's, again, 3 to 4 years because, we can have a one-off season like Ten Hag's first season where all of a sudden we made it, and then after that there was a steep drop-off, right? So I think firstly it's imperative that we realize our own style because we've had to adjust to injury, so our style is changing. We don't have an identity yet, and it's been 2 seasons for Ten Hag. So I think he needs to get the players that he wants, and finally he's getting it. He needs to then cement the way his possession style, the Ajax style of sorts, into the team, which will take I think 2 seasons. And then after that, if the process is in place, which it seems like it's going to be with all the technical heads and all the recruitment heads, and with Ten Hag as well, I think in 2 to 3 seasons we can start seeing a clear identity, and after that we can start challenging for a place, especially top 2.
Fair. Fair. Great. That's it for today, guys. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure having you guys back on the podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Any closing comments from any of you?
Parth.
See you at Old Trafford in September.
Fingers crossed.
And hope to be in many more videos and hope this reaches 1 million views ASAP.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thanks, guys. Pleasure. See
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.